hard weapon to soft target, soft weapon to hard target. That's the A+ answer. Now, if I'm in a fight and I'm in the fray back and forth and it's very, very dynamic, I know that there's a potential for me to hit bone. And so when I look at the localized area that your knuckles are, that I have to hit right on a specific target, and my chances of increasing risk to me and injury go way up if I'm in that dynamic environment. I'm not used to hitting with my closed fists and I'm hitting somebody's skull. I want to hit with my open hand. That's my first thing that I'm going to tell you. Open-handed striking in a combative scenario or on the street is going to save your fingers.
The information in this podcast is for entertainment and educational purposes. Our informational content cannot address all dangerous situations and cannot guarantee your survival or prevent injuries when the unexpected happens. The decision to carry a firearm, either for recreation or for personal defense, carries the risk and potential for injury and/or death. Therefore, it is advised that you seek out and acquire proper training before using a firearm or any firearm-related product.
What are some self-defense techniques?
What would happen if there was a global internet outage?
What should I do if I hear shots ringing out?
Or what I should do if there's a major terrorist attack?
What should I have? What's the best?
What should I do?
What does that look like?
What would you recommend? Is there anything I could do?
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Dangerous Questions in Ironclad Original. I asked you guys to do something the last couple episodes. Hopefully you've been implementing that in your life and you've been escalating your ability to visualize. Take these scenarios and use them. So the one thing I'm gonna add to this challenge, this is the last part to this. This is really gonna drive home what I've been asking you to do. And partly I'm asking you to do this as you're walking through these questions to really think about yourself in these scenarios. That's what this is for. I'm glad that this is entertainment for some, but I hope for most this is something that really is making you better. Take your visualization to the next level. When I'm thinking about fighting somebody and I'm thinking about that visceral contact, the sweat, the smell, what does the street smell like? What just happened? Maybe I got ambushed and popped in the face and I saw a flash of white. Now I'm a little dazed. I'm literally thinking about everything that could come into play during the visualization. The more intense you get about your visualization is going to help you with your outcome. Also, visualize yourself winning over and over and over again. Even if the scenario that you're afraid of or have fear of goes sideways in your head, like, wait a minute, I just started to lose. Always regain control and win. Find a way to get the dominant position. Find a way to escalate. Find a way to turn in what you just had to something better. Turn it into something positive so that you win every scenario in your mind over and over and over again. Doesn't mean you're not in a disadvantage, it just means that you win, but use that visualization to your advantage. Okay, so we have a lot of discussion here about improvised weapons, what we can do with them, and of course this is right up my alley because my whole career I've focused on what do I do if I have no weapons? What do I do if I go through an airport? What do I do if I go into a country where I'm getting screened or everything gets taken away from me? How do I become a weapon? How do I become an asset with either using myself or everything around me? And let's get into this episode with the first question. Are there common items you can hold or use in your hand to make striking more effective? Or what are ways to limit the risk of breaking a finger? Okay, this immediately makes me think of Kelly McCann. One of the first things that he taught us is that something is not always better than nothing. And what does that mean? A lot of people get wrapped up in their environment during or before a fight, and they're like, oh, what can I use in my environment? And again, environmental manipulation and all that's aside from the point. What I'm saying is that you get so hyper-focused on, can I pick that rock up? Can I pick this thing up? Sometimes fixating on that something, you're better off just having your open hands. Use what is connected to your body and that you've had your entire life to your advantage. Now, this is where combatives and MMA come into play. When I'm talking about hitting with my fist closed, there's a principle. Hard target to soft, hard weapon to soft target, soft weapon to hard target. Okay, I'll say that again. Hard weapon to soft target, soft weapon to hard target. That's the A+ answer. Now, if I'm in a fight and I'm in the fray back and forth and it's very, very dynamic, I know that there's a potential for me to hit bone. And so when I look at the localized area that your knuckles are, you're talking about a 2 to 3 inch radius right here that I have to hit right on a specific target. And my chances of increasing risk to me in injury go way up if I'm in that dynamic environment. I'm not used to hitting with my closed fists and I'm hitting somebody's skull. I want to hit with my open hand. That's my first thing that I'm going to tell you. Open-handed striking in a combative scenario or on the street is going to save your fingers. Now, I will say that people that just start using open or closed hands, they realize really quickly that you need to train both of them. Guys that box, hey, great, box, hit the bag, but then take your gloves off and hit open-handed. They both take a level of skill. It's not just as simple as saying, okay, I'm just going to hit and slap with my hand. You do have to structure your fingers and get everything stronger to impact at the same time. That training is going to reduce your injury. Know how to punch. That's going to reduce your risk of breaking a finger. So the one takeaway that I'm going to give you guys is increase your level of training to reduce injury in a real world scenario. Okay, I believe this next question is a live caller, right? Live caller is always good. So let's see what question he has for me. Welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
All right, so we've been on the topic of improvised weapons using our environment. I was just talking about open hand and closed hand striking. So what dangerous question do you have for me?
So my question for you, since I was flying recently, is since we can't have any weapons on an airplane, what are some options for self-defense while flying if an occasion arises?
So, you have to think of yourself in the environment where, really it is sanitized, right? You're going through metal detectors, you're going through, a screening process and layers of security. Now, I'm not always assuming that everybody else doesn't have weapons. We've seen that go bad in the past, right? People have razor blades, people get things through all the time. You're always going to have these, right? You're always going to have your body. As your primary weapon, you have to be confident in your hand-to-hand skills. You have to be confident in your manipulation, whether you're boxing, Thai boxing, doing combatives, jiu-jitsu, that is never going to replace those other things that you could utilize. If you are talking about improvised weapons, as soon as you get over that part, say you've got that done, say, hey, Dom, I'm great at Thai boxing, I understand combatives, I understand a basic level of grappling, cool. What are we adding to the environment? I would say one of the most important things to do when we sit down on an airplane is get a quick snapshot of what we have around us. A quick, what were people using in their luggage? What bags do I have in front of me? Because realistically, it's not just about the offensive weapons you could use, but it's also a defensive weapon. Most of these scenarios are very, very close. You're in the hallway, you're in the alleyway or the corridor of the plane, which is like 2 feet, 1.5 feet wide. So you have to be able to fight really in close, and that might be you crashing the gap until you can grab onto somebody. I think a lot of people have thought through what happens if somebody comes at me with a razor blade or a pencil. What am I going to do to mitigate risk? So hands, environment, obviously one thing that we're always talking about is something that I take with me everywhere, especially on a plane. I don't know if you own a Dynamis belt. There you go. So you asked the question, and I would hope that you know that this is something that sits right next to you that you could utilize, right? Especially in an environment where literally all I have on me is change. It's extra change. I'm going on an airplane, I'm going on a train, whatever it might be, and I have extra cash, documents, keys, whatever I need, but also something to be able to manipulate the things around me. I can use this to crash the gap, and I can use this as an impact weapon that is extremely effective, especially with distance. If somebody has a tool that can reach out, look how much more distance that I gained by putting the belt in my hand. I mean, it's almost another whole arm length distance, and if you know how to use it, just like I've been talking about these last couple of episodes that you're gonna watch, visualization. Are we taking that visualization and applying it to a gym? Do you have a punching bag? Do you have a bob dummy? Do you have something that you can get some good reps in and actually utilize the belt? Don't just wear it and say, hey, I'm good. Actually get out there and get repetition in. You know that the seat belts come off too, right? The buckles to the seat belt.
I remember you mentioned that, I think it was with Jack Carr, and I was actually looking for it like when I sat down. I was trying to figure out, I think it is a pin or something to take it off.
Okay, so every plane's gonna be a little bit different, but I would say 90% of the planes, and again, this is about repetition. It's about getting reps in. The next plane you go on and go down and look. Typically, it's a little, it's like a little carabiner. You know, it just unclips and it just comes right off. It's literally that simple. You know, and even if those are locked in, every, what are they called? Flight attendants, right? Yeah, flight attendants. The flight attendants, I don't travel on planes much anymore. But the flight attendants usually do a demo, right? They're like, hey guys, like this is the seatbelt, you know, make sure you fasten it this way. Well, where do they put that? That's a good place to look, you know? They have a little shelf, they put this, they're like, okay, my demo's done, and they put it back up in one of the cubbies. Well, if you know where that cubby is, well then if you really needed that thing, you could go get it. My bet is you'd probably be able to utilize your environment better anyway. I'm just saying, you know, open your aperture to what's available to you. I think what we use is just as important as what we use for defense as well, to be able to grab a bag or something to close the distance. People take all kinds of stuff on the planes. You know, somebody with a cane, somebody with a walker that folds up, or somebody that has a bag that's really compact. I mean, all those are impact weapons, every single one of them. You know, a cane is an awesome weapon. A walker is amazing to be able to crash the gap, hit people with, you know, even if I just need to close the distance with whatever they're doing. You know, those are the couple of things that you could utilize in just about every scenario you could find yourself in.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Well, hey, thanks for the question. I really appreciate it. God bless you. Thanks for the support. And we'll see you hopefully when you have another question.
Right on, man. Thank you so much. Keep it up.
All right. So again, when we're on a plane or we're on any type of environment that, you know, takes those tools away from us, we can't carry our firearm, we can't carry a blade. We do. We have to think out of the box. You have to go to what's next. You know, don't forget that these are the most essential things. Your mind, your heart, your body applied aggressively can do a lot of good, can do a lot of damage to a potential threat. Then you start adding things like this and things in your environment, you become a force to be reckoned with. I mean, honestly, if you told me that I had to go in an environment and not carry my blade or gun, and there was gonna be a bunch of people that came after me, but I could still use my environment, I'm like, sweet, because I'm gonna use that as an impact just like I would anything else. Just so happens I'm a little bit more comfortable with my blade and I like using my firearm. So just something to think about.
You've seen what we've been able to do with the Navy SEAL Foundation in the past. We've done campaigns, films, and tons of other awesome content. Our latest Ironclad original, On the X, is made in partnership with the foundation. We are really excited about this weekly podcast and YouTube show. One of the debut episodes we're really excited to have on best-selling author and podcaster Malcolm Gladwell. Another example of a guest, Matt Frazier, who's won 5 CrossFit championships, or big wave surfer and kind of wellness advocate Laird Hamilton. Both those guys have really pushed the limits of their sports, and it's a perfect sort of example of what we want to try to do with this show.
When I woke up, very confused, she said, "You almost died last night. In fact, no one can believe you were alive."
Change is very scary. As humans, we just hate uncertainty.
I went into the games not knowing what was coming.
You just sensed that it was out there.
It was like they'd been hit by a nuclear bomb.
This could go so many different directions.
You have to start somewhere.
We're all programmed in this world to push ourselves even farther.
Almost always some degree of growth that's available to us, if we are very intentional about it.
I could talk to you for probably another 2 hours.
My experience with the world is that if you try and do something hard and you give it your best shot, people are unbelievably accepting of the result.
Thanks again for coming on the X.
All right, let's get to the next question. I've heard that oven cleaner spray is really harmful to the eyes, and in a home invasion scenario could be used as mace. What are some other household items that could be utilized in situations like this? Okay, I'm kind of leaning back towards what Kelly McCann said. Something is not always better than nothing, and I think it's really important where people tend to overanalyze their environment. I am not saying don't get creative. I am not saying don't understand the things that are in your house. I don't know that all oven cleaner spray is equal, that I can tell you for sure there's an absolute, like, for sure, go get that. That's going to mitigate the attacker. No. And honestly, you know, what if my wife moved it and that's what I was going to rely on? And then my plan fails and now I'm having to divert and shift gears on something else. These are not the principles that are going to save your life. They're good to know. And one scenario that just popped into my head, I think it was George St. Pierre, but he was in a UFC fight and he was starting to use his elbow behind him and he was using the camera on the top of the UFC center and he was literally looking at what he was doing to see what angle he could get with his strikes. That was a great use of his environment that he did on the fly, and you could tell he didn't train for that, but he picked up on it. That was his ability to adapt. Things like this are going to come into play when people start adapting, when they start being able to utilize their environment for anything else they could use to their advantage. Again, I'm not saying don't do the research and know what's in there, but I'd rather you get rid of the mindset of that you're going to go lock onto these things in your house as opposed to, look, you've got your mind, you've got your hands, you should know martial arts. You should have a blade accessible. You should have firearms in your home. If you're really worried about somebody being a threat, kicking your door and threatening your life, that is a tool we have. We have an inalienable right to self-protection, an inalienable right to self-defense. That is your right as a human being. So put things in place that allow you to get there faster and with more intent. Visualize, train, get the reps in. Off the top of my head, when I read this, my instinct when I read this question, guys, about what you can utilize in your household was train the proper way. Don't get so wrapped up on overanalyzing these tiny little things in your house that could work. I don't know if a really committed attacker is going to care if he gets sprayed in the eyes. You can mace me, I'm still coming after you. You know what I mean? So a committed attacker, you got to be careful about putting too much emphasis or trust in these menial things. So my point out of all this is to really focus on the areas that are going to be most effective and not the kind of, what do you call it, like trivial things, right? These are trivial things that come up in an environment. If I really, really studied it and wanted to come up with a list, I'm sure I could come up with things, but do first things first, put the priority in order and get the training. All right, in Ukraine, civilians are outfitting drones with common AI tools, similar to the ones that can identify individuals in a photograph on an iPhone to track and target enemy soldiers without the need for human controls. Are you concerned about the implications of AI in warfare? Yes, of course I am. You know, in the book, The Warrior Ethos, you know, one of the quotes in there was that as soon as one of the Spartan leaders saw the ability to launch a spear and the other side, the enemy, was using the ability to launch that spear, he said, honor is no more. As soon as they knew they could put distance in between somebody and not actually physically grab somebody by the neck and look them in the eye as they were fighting for their life to the death, honor gets slowly removed. And I think it's important for us to understand that. The heart, the humanity, the instinct that AI will never have, the love that AI will never have and be able to apply in the real life scenario. That's what I'm worried about. Now, I've talked about it before. I know guys are using drones and all kinds of technology to their advantage. And I think as long as it's on the side of the good guy for the right reasons at the right time, can be applied. You know, again, say for instance, you've got a guy barricaded and he's holding 20 kids hostage. Tell me where the bets are off at that point. You have somebody that's evil, looking to do evil to innocent lives. I mean, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to be able to get that guy taken out. But then we have an abuse of power that slowly starts to unravel itself when you put it into the wrong hands. So as long as things are being used in a just manner and not for unjust reasons, I think they can be applied with heart. Again, these things are going to continue to grow, and we just have to continue to stay on top of them to know how to use them to our advantage, and anything else that could be applied for the good. That's all I have to say about that. All right, guys, this segment of Dangerous Questions is also brought to you by Mountain Tough. Mountain Tough Plus is the fitness app that's trusted by the dedicated. Who's the dedicated? You guys watching this show. We care about our ability to become assets and to be able to handle these situations, these scenarios. We're asking these questions for a reason. This is a fitness app that gives you no excuses and sets a level of fitness mindset that you guys can take with you everywhere. Mountain Tough is an all-access subscription platform. It gives you access to everything that they have available. World-class home fitness programs, mental training, self-improvement, prehab, rehab, everything that you guys need to set a solid foundation of fitness for your life. Again, you know fitness is really important to me, and I highly recommend this fitness app. And here on Dangerous Questions, we talk about it all the time. You've got to be prepared. Mountain Tough is giving an exclusive discount for all Dangerous Question listeners. Use the code DANGEROUS at mountaintough.com on the monthly subscription. You'll get your first month free, and that's on top of the 14-day free trial, giving you guys 6 weeks to test this out. 6 weeks of free trading at mountaintough.com. Go check it out. All right, guys, that wraps it up with the questions. Now let's get into the scenario breakdown. First video. Oh, John Wick. The bottom line is that he's using a pencil in this scenario. He's using the quote from Patton, right? A violent plan executed now. There's intent behind this. Now, I will say I've trained with guys that even, utilize pencils as a tool for combatives, but I'm not going to rely on that thing for a repeated impact. I am going to look at this thing as a one and done. If it does, great. But really, a real pencil is probably going to end up breaking in this dynamic scenario, but I might get one good push. Now, of course, this is where G10 comes into play, and there are materials out there that are very, very sturdy that can be used for writing and for self-defense. But in this scenario, he used his environment. It's sitting right there on the table. It's simple to grab. What's the first target that he hit? I think it was his hand. He got him to break contact. Now he's just going to town with it. And that last little stick in the ear. Okay, so we got a little bit. We got one more. Multiple attackers even. So again, he's using his environment, and we're having a little fun with this one. But at the end of the day, everybody likes breaking down these scenes. Use your environment. I mean, it's a good thing to adapt to. I was just talking about George St. Pierre. He's like, oh, the TV. All I'm going to do is be like, oh, the pencil's right there, and I can use it. Grab, boom, put it to work. Next video. All right, so it looks like we have a hostage scenario. Multiple people giving him direction on what to do. What is he holding? A blade or a gun? He's got, looks like a blade. So even where this camera angle is, again, there's a lot going on in these scenarios. Well, what's the guy in front of him doing? He's directing his attention. He's getting him offset. You can feel that in an environment. I'm telling you right now, you can. So if you know this guy's locked on, that's where this guy takes advantage of this angle. Go ahead and let it play. He sees the opportunity, he sees his hand extended, and boom, he just goes for it. And I even felt his body language kind of almost like nonchalantly being like, oh, I don't really know what to do, I'm not here. But then he decisively act. And again, what is the principles that we apply, whether it's blade or firearm? Clear your body of the line of attack. Control and crush that guy. Part of crushing him was doing a shoulder toss and flipping him over on his back and then clearing him of the weapon. Let's see it again because it was beautifully executed. Got all these guys taking his attention. He's moving it around, turns his back. Boom. Bam. 2-on-1. 2-on-1 principle on that one limb. Good control. Got him over. And then there he is being subdued. So Vietnam scenario, hostage, not uncommon. Honestly, happens every day all over the world. It just takes that one person. And who knows if that guy was even a part of that crew or not. It didn't even look like he was suited up or anything. He just decided to go for it. And everybody has to be adaptable to that as well. They may have been in on it and said, hey, you're going to wear street clothes. You're going to flank the guy. You got two dudes coming in. But even as an officer, those guys there might be a good citizen that decides to do something like that too. Are you, as the officer standing there, going to have the heads up to be like, okay, somebody else is engaging, even if I've got a gun out, to make sure that I'm not either sweeping him or unnecessarily sweeping him as the scenario sees fit. But again, good, decisive action, clear, control, crush, mitigated the scenario, got control, and escalated to detain the guy. So, hostage scenarios. That's it. That wraps up the scenario breakdowns for Dangerous Questions. Guys, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. We appreciate all the submissions, and I know some people are asking questions that we haven't got to yet, but we are doing our best. This is the IRONCLAD Original. We appreciate all your support here. God bless you, and see you on the next episode.